This problem says you're batching 1200 pounds of dry sand and the sand has got absorption of 1.5% and total moisture of 7%. And you have to find the equivalent weight in SSD condition and the wet condition. So how to convert the dry weight of aggregate to SSD weight and the wet weight? And that's what we want to do in this problem. The way to imagine this is to look at something like this. Say you have a dry, SSD, and wet. In the dry condition, the aggregate is always 100%. Just imagine that. In the SSD, remember SSD is nothing but the weight of the aggregate plus the absorbed water, right? So if dry weight is 100%, SSD is going to be 100 plus 1.5%, so it will be 101.5%. And the wet weight in this problem, it will be 100 plus 7%, because 7% is the total moisture. Remember, when you're going to draw from dry to wet, you have total moisture. So it's 100% plus 7%, so it'll be 107%. Now in this problem, we are told that we got 1200 pounds of dry sand. And you have to figure out what's the SSD and what is the wet weight. As you can see here, if you want to look at it in a conversion factor concept, if this is 100, that's a factor of 1. 101.5% will be 1.05 times this weight. 107% would be 1.07 times this weight. So if you implement that concept here, the SSD weight will be the dry weight, which is 1200 times 1.015, which will be 1218 pounds. The wet weight will be the dry weight 1200 times the 1.07, which will be 1284 pounds. Now, when you're going from dry to SSD and from dry to wet, you always multiply by that conversion factor. But when you're coming from wet down to SSD or to dry, you divide by the conversion factor. So let's check that out. If we are given a wet weight of 1284 pounds, what will be the dry weight if the total moisture is 7%? So then we go 1284 pounds. So dry weight for 1284 pounds would be 1284 divided by 1.07, which will be 1200 pounds, which was what the problem was. Same way, if the SSD weight is given as 1218 and you have to determine the dry weight for 1.5% absorption, it will be dry weight once again will be SSD weight, which is 1218 divided by 1.015, which will be 1200 pounds. Again, the dry weight is 1200 pounds, which is the same as the problem. So again, remember that dry weight is always assumed as about 100%. And when you go to SSD, you're adding the absorption. So that number is higher, the conversion factor. And when you go to wet weight, you're adding the total moisture. So you always multiply when you go from dry to SSD or wet, and you divide when you come from wet to SSD or dry.